You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. By going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, you can make this possible.
Let's talk about a story that caught my attention today. That is, if African Americans had the same wealth as white Americans, that would add nearly $2 trillion to the United States economy. Joining us right now from Dillard University is Dr. Kristen Broady. She is the Dean of the College of Business at Dillard. Dr. Broady, glad to have you on Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Glad to be here with you. Thank you, Roland.
This issue of wealth is hugely important. We saw during the home foreclosure crisis 2007 and since 53% of black wealth wiped out as a result. African Americans also don't have the same wealth in terms of inheritance. And so, is it, of course, people outside of the issue of reparations, how do we close the gap?
So there are a couple of different ways to do it, and it's not about anything that black people need to do. When they talk about how we spend money or that we need to go to school or any of those things, it's not about that. It's been about structural racism. I mean, it's interesting. Dr. William Darity at Duke wrote about this in 1975. And he said that there are these different theories where they say we need more human capital, we need more networking, more education. It's not about any of that if racism causes us not to be able to have the same amount of capital as white people do. Capital, physical capital in terms of owning homes and appreciable assets is the problem. So long as we're kept from those things, so long as we're kept from getting the same level of education, the same sort of houses, being able to live in safe neighborhoods, you're going to continue to have a wealth gap. And it's not anything that individual African Americans need to do about it. It's really about getting that capital and stopping the discrimination that keeps us from it.
So again, without, okay, first of all, reparations is not going to get passed tomorrow. What do you say to black folks today? What do we do?
I think we're doing it. Dr. Bill Spriggs at Howard writes about in his articles that African Americans are more likely to send their kids to college, that we spend a greater proportion of our income on higher education, that we do buy houses. In my article, I wrote an article about foreclosure, that we may be more likely to have a foreclosure start, but less likely to actually have a foreclosure, because when black people do get houses, we value them. We take care of business. I don't think that there's anything else that we could be doing. And I think a lot of economists, a lot of political people have said, you know, what black people need to do. We are doing it. I can't blame us for it. It's about discrimination, allowing us to be able to have those same assets. That's really the only thing that's going to solve it. So long as discrimination exists, we're not going to be able to solve that problem.
That there are individuals who.
I'm sorry, Roland, I couldn't hear that. Could you say that one more time?
It's also how we use our political power to ensure that we are electing people who maximize, who put forth policies that speak to our issues.
Yeah, that of course is a topic that's close to my heart. It's what I wrote about for the State of Black America this year. So people talk about that black people need to get out and vote. We do, right? But you have to think about all of the different laws that have been passed in terms of voting, that when you get to the polls and they say that you don't have the right ID, or they're closing polling locations in African American neighborhoods, we do get out and vote. Again, it comes down to discrimination, gerrymandering, and the like. I'm still not going to blame us. We would vote more if they would keep the polling places open, if they would allow early voting, if they would allow people to take seniors on buses. There are a lot of things that could happen that keep us from voting. I'm not blaming us for that. I have to say discrimination. If you eliminate structural racism and discrimination, then we would get an education. We would vote for the right people. The Democrats know that, right? Like, we vote Democratic. Our voter turnout is very high
here's what I mean.
when we're allowed to vote.
But here's what I mean. But Doc, here's what I mean. First of all, I understand gerrymandering, understand voter suppression. What I'm saying is, when we do vote, it's also important for us to push candidates to be very specific about issues that directly impact us economically. And after we vote, ensure that we also are staying engaged in the process to make those things happen. That's what I'm talking about.
I agree with that. And I think that when you look at the person who is in office now, I'm not going to name a particular candidate that I'm supporting, but I think that all of them are better than who we have. I think that the Democrats need to come together quickly behind a candidate so that we can have someone who will look out for our best interest. But I think the infighting and talking about the various candidates negatively is not helping our cause.
All right, Doc, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, then, Avis and Kelly, real quick. There are things that we are doing, but I think what has to happen is, I think even more so, we must ratchet up this idea that we have to take things into our own hands when it comes to wealth creation. Because as I said, the folks who support reparations, it ain't happening tomorrow. It's not happening next week. And if we're waiting for that to happen, we're going to be waiting for a very long time. And so I think there are things that we can do in terms of be even more aggressive in fighting discrimination. When you talk about education, but also when it comes to spending, when it comes to housing, decisions that we make, because we have to also be thinking about collective when it comes to our resources as well, in terms of being able to move forward.
Well, you know, here's the thing that I find very interesting about that study and about other studies that have been done of Trump supporters. Here's one consistent thing that we can point to. Even though we like to think that America is all about capitalism, it's all about money, it's all about who's going to create the most wealth for this country, the reality is this country understands that if it were more fair, we would have more wealth produced in this country. They have this whole paradigm in terms of our culture and our structural systems have preferenced white privileged over the maximization of capitalism's possibilities. And you can look at that also as it relates to Trump supporters, who everybody wants to claim and wanted to claim they were voting because of economic anxiety. It didn't have nothing to do with economic anxiety. All the data that I have seen on it shows that the primary driver for the votes that he received were largely issues having to do with race and ultimately the protections of white privilege, even if that meant economic damage to those individuals who were voting for him. And so what I find most interesting about this issue around what the country is missing out on and losing economically because of its unfair structural racism that has led to and continues to maintain an egregious wealth gap in this country is the degree to which whiteness is privileged in this nation, even over the maximization of economic prosperity.
Kelly.
No, I definitely agree, but what also baffles me about this is people act like they care and they don't. You know, like Dr. Avis was saying, if we really were fair, that would mean the taking of power away from those who consider themselves white supremacists and feel like that is their pedestal. You know, nobody wants to be knocked off of their pedestal. But the problem is something needs to give in order for this nation to actually be great for the first time, not even again. So what we're dealing with here is people who say that they want one thing aren't willing to give up anything in order to make that happen. And we have a whole, you know, entity of people who are going to be, you know, lost and losing in the process at the expense of literally the entire nation. So something literally has to give. Something has to change. And if you are not willing to change it, we're going to continue this this over and over again. Even with presidential candidates talking about reparations, that really is the solution, is to make everything a little bit fairer. But nobody wants to say that either, because even those who are talking about reparations, they would lose their standing in society, whether you're black, white, what have you. You know, they are still upper echelon, these politicians. And if you do that, they'll lose their standing. And nobody wants to lose their standing at the expense of themselves, even if it means for the betterment of the whole. So that's the problem. People want something and they're not willing to change what's going on.
Back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, folks, Life Luxe Jazz is the experience of a lifetime, delivering top-notch music in an upscale destination. The weekend-long event is held at the Omnia Day Club Los Cabos, which is nestled on the Sea of Cortez in the celebrity playground of Los Cabos, Mexico. The Life Luxe Jazz experience offers the ultimate getaway for discerning jazz aficionados by pairing an upscale international destination with luxury accommodations, fine hot cuisine, top-shelf libations, breathtaking golf, exhilarating spa, health and wellness options, and much more, while showcasing some of the biggest names in entertainment. The second annual Life Luxe Jazz experience continues to build upon its success and heritage with Jazzing Around Los Cabos, a celebratory expansion of accomplishing its goal of sharing all the finest the destination has to offer, including daytime excursions and mini concerts, including the Spirit of Jazz Gospel Brunch and Jazz Sunset Cruise. Confirmed guests, comedian actor Mark Curry, Gerald Albright, Alex Bugman, Raul Madon, Incognito, Pieces of a Dream, Kirk Whalum, Average White Band, Donnie McClurkin, Shalea, Roy Ayers, Tom Brown, Ronnie Laws, and Ernest Quarles. Man, that's a hell of a lineup. For more information, visit the website at lifeluxejazz.com. It's lifeluxejazz.com. Also, we'll be broadcasting Roland Martin Unfiltered from Los Cabos the Thursday and Friday. And so you definitely want to be in the house, folks. It is an amazing experience. I can't wait for it all to happen. So go to lifeluxejazz.com to sign up today. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered.